All right, reasons why, 13 reasons why sucked. So full disclosure, I just finished watching this. It was a Netflix show. I watched the finale last night and okay, so some parts of it were entertaining. I will give it that. But I think they could have done things a little bit differently to not send a couple of extremely devastating messages. Also, parts of it were extremely cringy. Maybe it's just because it's hard for me as a woman in her late 20s to relate to a bunch of high school students sitting in a circle going, FML, OMG, FML for life. Like, my life totally sucks. Kind of hard to relate to that, but also there were certain things that just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I hate to come off sounding like a conservative, religious mom who's trying to keep her kids from watching Harry Potter because it promotes witchcraft with all that magic. So let me know in the comments if you think I'm totally off base and being overly offended by this. And honestly, it's not even that I am that offended. I just feel the need to make this video because I'm worried that it did send, like I said, a couple of devastating messages to very young people. The audience that watches this show, it's a high school audience, teenagers, kids that are susceptible to feelings of depression and kids who probably do contemplate suicide. I understand that kids in their teens, late 20s, early 20s, any person, honestly, of any age is susceptible to these types of feelings. Mental illness is a very serious and real problem, and I feel like this show, in a sense, almost promotes suicide. And I say that because although people around her were very sad that she was gone, it presented it in a way that made it seem as though her taking her own life was justified, that she did something for herself, and that it was this almost like a good thing so that she could teach everyone around her who mistreated her a lesson. And let me tell you something, suicide is not revenge. And that's the premise of the entire show. It's 13 reasons why this girl killed herself, and it's basically 13 different things that happened to her by different people that led her to the point of, I guess, choosing to take her own life. Richie tweeted, honestly, fuck 13 reasons why. It's a horrendous example of someone killing themselves to inflict damage on the living. Suicide is not revenge. I said, just finished watching and agree. It's sending the message that you are at fault if someone you know commits suicide. Pretty fucked up. Now, I don't want to give away any huge spoilers, but, I'm going to right now because I feel like in order to understand where I'm coming from, you need to, kind of know about the show a little bit. Part of me was hoping that by the end of it, there was going to be some twist and she wasn't going to actually be dead, that she was going to come back and be like, I just wanted to teach you guys, which is still pretty fucked up, but at least it's not actually that she was dead. The grand finale, actually, the last episode, was not anything like that. It was that another kid shot himself in the face. So, great. Some of the reasons why I can understand. For example, there was a rape story. I can understand how something that serious could really affect someone's mental health to the point of them, doing something irrational. So that's pretty serious. But, if you have gone through something like that, I recommend, seeking a counselor or multiple counselors or talking to people. This girl told no one, except for, I guess, her school counselor, who didn't help, but she didn't seek help from friends or family or, professional help outside of the shitty school counselor that was provided to her. So that was sad. But there were other examples of kids that gave her reasons why, and it was really not offensive. One kid published a poem that she had, didn't even tell anyone that it was her, but the fact that other people were reading her very intimate poem made her super insecure. So yeah, of course, that kid shouldn't have done that, but Jesus Christ, telling that kid that he is responsible for this girl's death for publishing a poem, in my head, is hella fucked up. Another thing that happened was a guy that she was interested in, and he's kind of one of the main characters of the whole show. He's kind of going through and trying to avenge her because he loved her or whatever. He was one of the reasons why, and his reason why was because whenever they were about to have sex, she freaked out because she had these previous traumas that kind of, gave her flashbacks to that, and she just couldn't go through with it. So she just took it out on him, yelled at him, screamed for him to get off of her, and told him to leave, get the fuck out. And he tried to make her feel better. She's like, get out. So he left. right? Like, wouldn't you leave in a situation like that where you thought maybe you had done something wrong or pushed someone too far or made them uncomfortable? So he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay. And then he left. But she was sad that he didn't stay. She was sad that he didn't stay longer and try to make her feel better. And I'm just like, she was literally telling him to get the fuck out. And now this kid, who did love her, has to live with the fact that he killed her. And he even asked his friend, like, did I kill Hannah Baker? And his friend was like, yes, you did. We all did. It's like, no, fuck that. She told him to leave. Like, he was nice to her. And now this person is supposed to live the rest of his life thinking that he is responsible for someone he cared about's death because he didn't stay in a situation where literally no one would have stayed. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it keeps promoting this idea that, this girl had obviously mental health issues. Yes, she was being bullied. High school can be a bitch for anyone, but shouldn't it be like, I don't know, sending the message that if you're bullied in school, you can push through it. Here's how you can overcome it. But instead it was like this glorified, like, she killed herself because of us. And no one is like thinking that that's a little wrong. I get it. I get that it's a show, okay? I can hear everyone screaming at me, Jacqueline, it's just a show. You can't take it too seriously. But let me ask you something. Do you seriously think that this isn't going to leave a little seed in everyone's head that watches it that they are responsible for other people's life? For example, I dated someone who was extremely mentally unstable. I did not know this getting into it, and I wanted to work through it, honestly. But it got to a point where it was abusive to me, and I had to leave that situation. It was a situation that I had continually been trying to leave, and I kept getting pulled back into. And the reason I stayed way beyond what I wanted to was because he kept saying, if you leave, I'm going to kill myself. And it got to me, and it kind of, made me feel stuck. And I felt responsible for the life of this other person. After 4 or 5 times trying to leave that relationship, I finally did. He didn't kill himself. He's fine. And then talking to other people that were involved with him, apparently this was something that he just did to everyone. Like, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to kill myself. And like, I can't believe that you don't want to support me through this ridiculous thing that I'm asking you to do. I'm going to kill myself. I know that I'm horrible to you, but if you love me at all, if you care about me at all, you won't leave. And if you do, I'm going to kill myself. Like, this is horrible. This is a horrible thing to put someone through. I had to go through it. It was a really bad time for me. So imagine, my mom, for example. I was asking my mom for advice through all of this, and I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to do. And she kept telling me over and over, Jacqueline, it's not your fault if he does something. You can't force yourself to stay. And honestly, a very scary situation, because this person is saying that their life is in your hands. That's not right for him to do to you. If he does do something, which she didn't think he did, and she was right, she didn't think he would do, if that were to happen, it's not your fault. Finally I took her advice and made the healthy choice to leave a very toxic situation. Imagine kids growing up who haven't experienced things like that in their life, watching this show and feeling like every little thing they do wrong to a person could lead them to commit suicide. And then one day entering a relationship like I was in, with a person that's saying, if you do this, I'm going to. And then being like, well, I guess this is a thing that happens. And maybe taking it a little bit more seriously. And maybe it's that much harder to leave. I don't know. Also, sometimes these things are just out of your control. I have made videos before on depression and suicide. They're all demonetized and flagged by YouTube, apparently, because suicide's not a thing we can talk about. Wonder if this is going to get flagged. But I talked about how a girl that I knew killed herself. She was the older sister of my best friend through middle school, and I had some negative interactions with her. And when she died, I questioned myself a lot. I put a lot of guilt on myself. And now looking back, honestly, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I didn't treat her poorly. for reasons that weren't justified. Like, I'll just explain it. I don't know if I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, but she wasn't a mentally stable person. And one night, my friend and I got into a fight. She was at my house. We were both in high school at the time. And she was very drunk, and she wanted to leave. And I am terrified of someone, drinking and driving and getting into an accident. And, it's very scary. You could kill yourself. You could kill someone else. So I took her keys from her and I hid them. And she called her older sister, and her older sister came over yelling and screaming at me. And, where do you hide my sister's keys? Where do you hide my sister's keys? And I didn't have them on me. She thought I had them in my pocket, but I had them in one of my purses in my room. And she attacked me. She grabbed my hair. She was trying to find these keys, and she was kind of hitting me, and it was terrifying. So I pushed her off of me. And then she went around telling everyone that I had hit her, and that I was forcing my friend to stay with me against her will, and try to make me look bad to everyone. So I didn't have the nicest things to say about her because I was really pissed. I think I had good reason to be really pissed. And years later, we hadn't talked, and then, so it's not like I really knew her. I wasn't close to her, but years later, she committed suicide, and I felt awful. I felt like, man, what if I could have done something? What if I could have looked past her acting terribly and understood that maybe she was just struggling with something and needed anyone to just look past her being kind of horrible and give her love that she was obviously lacking. So there was a lot of self-doubt that I had through that. And because of it, I have learned, and I have tried to treat people nicer that are horrible to me and who I don't feel like being very nice to. I just try to go out of my way to be nice to everyone. And that was a life-changing experience. But again, my mom and many other people have had to tell me, Jacqueline, that wasn't your fault. And I know it wasn't my fault. But shit, according to this show, I would have definitely been a reason why if publishing a poem or not forcing yourself to stay around a person who's yelling at you to leave is a legitimate reason for someone to kill themselves, then I guess I would be on her list. Another thing that's kind of ironic is the girl in the show that killed herself did some kind of messed up things too. She witnessed a rape and didn't do anything to stop it because she was afraid. So if that girl who had gotten raped killed herself and made a 13 Reasons Why tape, she would have been on it. So it's just no one's perfect. Everyone does stupid things. Everyone does shitty things, especially when you're in high school. You're not the most socially aware. You haven't learned a lot of things in life to bring you to a mature mental state. But I don't know. I didn't like that there were so many parts in the show where kids were she killed herself because of me. And other people were yeah, you're right though. My biggest 3 worries from the show are this. First of all, there are going to be situations where someone might lose someone close to them as a result of suicide. If it's a parent, if it's a friend, if it's a coworker, please do not blame yourself. Yes, by all means, go out of your way and try to be nicer and be aware that everyone has struggles and it is a real threat. But if it happens, it is not your fault. You cannot control what somebody else does. 2, if you are suicidal, please call the suicide hotline. I will leave that number and information in the description below. Killing yourself is not something you should do for revenge. You are taking your own life, not anyone else's. At the end of the day, you are gone and they are not. Suicide is not morally justified because you feel like other people have a price they need to pay. You're the one paying the price. 3, if you are in a situation where someone is saying that you need to do something for them, or you need to stay with them in an abusive situation, and if you don't, they will commit suicide. If they're threatening you with that, please do not let it get to you. Again, it's just a fear of mine. People are going to start thinking oh, it is my fault what other people do. It's not. You can't control what other people do. Do not ruin your own life because you're afraid of what somebody else might do. Yes, be nice to them, but don't let it control you like I let it control me for so long. But hey, what do I know? Other than that, it was a great show. I mean, like I said, there were parts that were entertaining. I just wish that they really drove home the fact that it is not someone else's fault. That is not something that anyone else should feel the responsibility for. So with that said, I'm going to end this video. I'm sorry it was kind of a long rant. It's just like, I just didn't get it. I just didn't get why this is such a popular show, and because it is, and because suicide is something that I talk about, because I, at one point in my life, was suicidal. I was very depressed, and I worked through it, so I've made videos giving advice, all of which, by the way, YouTube is demonetized because apparently it's inappropriate. Oh, and by the way, I went to a place in Japan called the Suicide Forest. It's an actual place, and that video got demonetized while YouTube was simultaneously running ads for a movie called Suicide Forest, about the Suicide Forest. But I went to the actual place and they were like, nope, can't talk about it, so I'm sure this video will get flagged. But I don't care if I don't make a penny on this video. I hope people who watch the show see it and just know it's just a show. These are not the take-home messages you should be listening to. I hope you heard what I had to say, and I hope it resonates and I hope it makes a difference. So anyways, thank you for watching. Like I said, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you have any personal stories that you want to share to help other people, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Like this video, subscribe if you want to, and big thank you to everyone who is a Patreon of mine. Like I said, YouTube is horrible. Everything's getting demonetized now, especially videos like this that are mature content, that are sensitive. Netflix can run a whole show about suicide, almost like glorifying it. But I can't make a video saying to not commit suicide, because that's not okay. It's not advertiser friendly. So thank you to everyone supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue to make videos and not care if I don't make a cent from my ad revenue. Anyways, end rant. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye.